Hi, my loves. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm doing a special episode today, which I haven't done one of these in a while. And I remember I did one about 9 months ago, maybe even more, 10 months ago, that y'all loved and ate up. And so I decided I'm going to do another one. And it is a Q&A episode from y'all, from my community. So I sent out a question to all of my email subscribers and basically said, hey, what questions do you have for me? And so many of you wrote in, and I'm so excited to answer your questions because they're so good. And I know everyone's going to get so much value from this episode. Why I love doing Q&A episodes is because I know if one person's asking the question, there's probably many of you asking the question. So I'm super excited to dive in and answer them for you today. I got such a good variety of questions this time, and there's a lot. So I'm going to dive in. All right. First question. Okay. Deciding on the end result, but without being too specific, question mark. Sometimes I'm worried that I'm too specific. Okay, great question. How do you know if you're too specific? Here's what I say. There is no such thing as too specific if the specificity lights you up. If you feel called to be very specific, the reason to do that and let your brain go there and see that super specific vision is because it lights up an emotion in you. It feels good. And that's what you want to ask yourself is when you're being specific, does it feel exciting? Does the vision light you up? Because that lit up feeling within you is what's going to activate motion, right? That's going to get you lit up and excited about taking action towards this thing, moving towards this thing, calling this thing in. So that's the reason for being specific, right? Now, you know you're being too specific when you're too attached to that specificity. When you don't have a this or something even better for the highest good of all concern added onto it, right? When you're super attached to a specific vision, it's not leaving room for the universe's magic. When a lot of times that vision is what keeps excited and moving towards it and taking steps. But oftentimes the universe will guide us in different ways that are even better than that, or something else comes along that's even better. So what we want to do is, this is what I recommend, is keep your specific vision if it feels good, but also hold that. And I'm open for things to look differently, but even better than this, right? I'm open to the universe's guidance, right? So I would say you're only being too specific if it's making you feel attached to it, not making you feel, but if you are feeling attached to that specific vision, then you're just not open to the magic of the universe, right? So if you're like manifesting a house and you're like, I want a blue house with white shutters in Santa Monica within walking distance to the beach that has a fire pit and at least this much square feet and this size yard and a 2-car garage, and I have to buy it in the next 3 months. Well, you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. And let's be real, we don't even know that this house exists in Santa Monica as it is. And then it's showing up in the next 3 months. I don't know. But what you want to ask yourself is, why do I have that vision? What is it about that vision that I love? What's the essence of that blue house with white shutters that's 5 minutes walking distance to the beach with a 2-car garage and a yard and a fire pit? What is the essence of that? How do you feel when you're there? Right? So what you want to do is use that vision to kind of get clear about, what is the feeling that I get whenever I envision that? Because that's what you want to go for, right? So like for me, I have a vision board. In fact, this is a great example because I am manifesting a move in the next year. So I'm starting to look at places for my main home, like my primary full-time home. So I'm looking at places and I have specifics on a vision board, right? Because when you have a vision board, it kind of is specific, right? Like it's a picture of an exact home. But what I do is I ask myself, what is it about this that I like? What is the feeling it gives me, right? What is it about this that I love? And then whenever I go look at houses, I'm checking in like, hmm, does it make me feel the way that I feel whenever I look at my vision board? Is that the essence that I'm getting here? And the house might look completely different or be in a completely different location, but sometimes it has that same essence or the same feeling, right? And oftentimes it's maybe in a location that's close to where my vision board is, or the house kind of looks like it, but you walk in the house and you're like, this is not the feeling that I get when I'm looking at my vision board and that I was imagining. So we can use specifics just to get clear on the essence, but know that it's always this or something even better for the highest good of all concerned, right? And if you're asking yourself, am I being too specific? Honestly, I would ask your own intuition that, right? You're going to know if you are. If it's not feeling good, you probably are, right? And if it feels good to be specific, do it. I have a whole other podcast episode on this about specific manifesting and non-specific manifesting. And honestly, manifestation is just a game. So you get to play it in whatever way you want. And if being specific feels good, do it and don't question whether you're being too specific or not. That's my advice. All right, love it. Okay, next question is, how do I talk to my kids about money in an abundant way? I know how to not raise kids with the scarcity mindset, but it can be confusing to find the line of money is everywhere and flowing. And also, no, that's not in the budget right now. A trip to Dubai is not on the table. LOL. I love it. Such a good question. Okay, so I'm not a mom, but I love this question. And I'll just share how I would probably share this and find that balance if I did have a kid or if I was talking to my niece and nephew, how I would teach them or share the way. And you can see if it resonates for you. So I would share money is everywhere and flowing, and that we can absolutely create the money that we want. And the way that we create it is through an exchange of value, right? We offer value to the world and we get money in return. So there, nothing's really off the table. If there's something you really feel called to create, you can absolutely create it. And if you want to go on a trip to Dubai in this lifetime, there is nothing stopping you. You can absolutely create the money for it. Then I would check in with myself. Does a trip to Dubai with my family feel in alignment for me, right? And let's say it didn't. I'm like, that's not the family vacation I want to go on. We'll just say it's not, right? Then what I would probably tell my kid is, you know what? That doesn't feel aligned for me to create that. Right now, it's not in the budget. Money is flowing absolutely, and we are so abundant. We have so many resources. We really have everything we need, but it doesn't mean we have money in the budget for everything right now. But that said, if we want to create it, we could. But for me, I don't think I want to go on a trip to Dubai. But I don't think you should lose that vision. So, what if you put that on your vision board for your life? What if that's something you decide that you want to create? And once you're grown up and once you can create money and you can, serve and begin adding value in exchange for money, you can start saving up for that trip to Dubai. And you can teach them that there's nothing off the table, that absolutely they can create that, right? And put it in their power, right? That's how I would do it. If it does feel in alignment for me, but it's not in the budget, right? If I'm like, that sounds fun, that'd be an awesome family trip, then I would probably just say, that's not in the budget right now, but we're amazing creators. As a family, we know how to create money. So let's brainstorm, right? Maybe we take this trip in a year or 2 or 3 years and we save money because money is abundant and we can totally create it. So let's think of some ways that we could exchange value for money. And I'll think about ways that I could do that in my business. Maybe you could think about ways that you could do it and contribute to this trip so we can all start saving together. And if there is another parent, you could say, and maybe they can start thinking about it too. Sounds like a really fun plan to all create together. But right now it's not in the budget, but that doesn't mean we can't create it. So that's kind of the key. It's like, It doesn't mean it's in the budget right now, but it doesn't mean we can't create it, right? So that's the approach that I would take. I don't think it's a disempowering thing to teach kids about budgeting. I don't think it's a disempowering thing to tell them this is where we're at now. I don't think that is in conflict with also, and there is an abundance of money out there, but sometimes it means that we save for things, right? And that we do have to create value in exchange for that. And maybe we're not there yet. So I do think it's really empowering. And I think it can be a way to teach abundance, to teach about budgeting, right? And the power of budgeting and, the power of creating and how you can create. That could be a really fun little practice of teaching that, hey, what happens when we don't have the resources for it in this moment, but we want it? How do we do that? How do we go about it? What's the process, whether that's as a family or how would you do it in the future, right? Whenever you start making money, whenever you have the ability, how can you start saving for it now? Shoot, you have things that you could offer. There's value you could offer. What might you want to start even now? Start saving for that trip and even show them the realistic of like, hey, this is how much Dubai would cost for a family. Let's do it. Let's go. Let's create it, right? Or you create it when you're older, right? I don't think you always have to do, I'm not saying let's just do everything our kid wants to do so that we can teach abundance. It's like, if it's not in alignment, also share that. So that's how I would probably go about it. I hope that was helpful. All right. Next question is, I'd like to hear a little bit more around being my future self and how to be her from a spending perspective without actually being her in the present moment and spending what I don't have because I don't have the overflow of money she does just yet. For example, my future self takes regular supplements and can afford to because she has an overflow of money versus my reality where I'm at and I'm just covering my bills, but not able to invest in supplements because I don't have overflow yet. I hope that makes sense. It totally makes sense. I love this question, and I think this is a really important one to answer. And here is my take on this: spend from your present reality. Do not spend from your future self. In fact, I've coached a lot of people on debt and I've helped a lot of people get out of debt. And I will say that one of the main thoughts that people have that creates debt for them is, oh, I'm spending from my future self. Or if I believe in myself, I'm going to spend this money, right? Which they don't actually have, or it doesn't actually make financial sense in that moment. And when we do that over and over and over, it can create debt. So I'm a big fan of spending from your present reality, but also that doesn't mean that you can't create what it is you want. So I would ask myself, okay, this is where I'm at right now. If I have a desire to buy supplements, let's say it's $200 a month, I'm just throwing a number out there. A couple things that I would do is say this: okay, is there any way that I could create an additional 200K a month? Are there any ideas that come? How could I create the money to purchase the supplements? And I would wait until I actually make that money to purchase them, right? So I would ask myself, how can I make an additional $200 a month, right? That's number one. If I couldn't come up with anything, or if I'm like, no, I don't see a way, right? Or it's not worth it, right? I would maybe something like that, right? Like, oh, it's not worth it to do that thing just for supplements. Then I would say, well, if the supplements are, is there anything that I could take away from my current budget in order to replace it and get the supplements, right? So maybe that means I don't eat out 2 times a month that I normally do. Or maybe that means that you cut back, I don't know, is there a way to cut back $200 a month and replace that with supplements, right? So that's another way of going like, oh, my future self takes supplements. I want to take supplements now. How can I do this within my current budget? The third way that you can do it is you could say, okay, it's not, I'm not creating an additional $200 a month. and maybe it's more than that, right? Maybe it's 500, maybe it's 1,000. I have no idea, right? I know supplements, there's a range. So I am just throwing this number out there. But if you're like, there's nothing that I see that I would want to replace right now, I really am just making ends meet and everything that I'm paying for is for survival. So that's not in the cards. And I don't really see a way of making an additional $200 a month. Then what you might say is, how could I just start? Is there any way instead of spending $200 a month, is there a way that maybe it's $20 a month? Maybe I get the first supplement. Instead of supplements, I start with one supplement. Maybe it's a multivitamin that is within my budget, right? That I just go to a vitamin store and I get it so that I'm moving towards that, right? And I'm spending what I have available on it. So that's the third way that I go, and the third question that I would ask, right? So it reminds me actually of like back whenever I was in college. I did not have money, but I highly value travel. I love traveling. I love experiences. It lights my heart and soul up. Did I have the budget for it? Absolutely not, right? I was just making ends meet in college, like barely making ends meet, but I still wanted to travel. So I would figure out a way to do it within my means, which was barely anything. So literally, and I'm not saying I would recommend this, but I'm using this as an example. I would go down to Florida driving with a packed car, a bunch of friends. We would all stay in one cheap hotel room, definitely not on the ocean, but we could walk to the ocean and we could do all the things that we wanted to. But we literally had like 10 people in a hotel room. Like, do not recommend. It's something that like you can only do in college. Don't even know how we got away with it. But I traveled, right? And we did this kind of stuff quite often, right? We would take trips up to Chicago from St. Louis and do a weekend in Chicago. We'd go to Florida for spring break. Like, I figured out a way to do it within my current college budget that wasn't putting me into debt. Was it stretching me a little? Maybe. But it was something that I really wanted, right? So that's a way that you can think about it, is how can you get started on this within your current budget? And that might be, like I said, just starting with a multivitamin, knowing that you're totally going to do all the vitamins that you want when you have the massive overflow. But I'm never a fan of spending from your future self. Don't spend as if you have the money that your future self has, because that's going to put you into debt. Okay. So that is my recommendation. And that's how I hold things. Okay, next question is, what do you do when you have so many opportunities that you could pursue, but don't do any of them because you might do the wrong one? Okay, so here's the thing is, I do not believe that there's a wrong one. So I actually don't have that issue because I don't hold a belief that there's a right or wrong one. I always just think that if I take action towards something, that creates clarity. So even if it weren't something that I'm going to land on for the rest of my life, by actually taking action and just picking something, it's going to help me actually get clear. It's either going to be the thing that I want to stick with for a while, or it's going to help me get clear on what might be the thing that I want to do more long term. So I really have this belief that action creates clarity. And I have another belief that you cannot steer a parked car, right? So you're not going to be able to go anywhere if you do nothing waiting for the right answer. So my belief is the only way I'm going to find the right thing is by trying out something, right? Even if it's the wrong thing, it's going to lead me to the right thing, right? And I don't really even believe in a right or wrong thing, because I just believe in pivots and shifts. And I really have this belief, you take action on something, you will get more clear. 100,000%. And I also believe it just feels good to be in action and to create some momentum. Momentum does something. So I'm a big fan in moving. So I do not hold that belief that I could do the wrong one. It's just not in my consciousness. I've chosen not to believe something like that. And I also have a lot of evidence that if you just take action towards something, it will totally create clarity for you. So much more clarity than if you're to sit there waiting and hoping that you find the right answer that is just going to fall on you because it's not going to. So that's what I would recommend is pick something knowing that there's no such thing as the right thing. If there's no such thing as the right thing, what feels like the most intuitive next step? That's where I would go. Okay, what do you do in the liminal space when nothing seems to be happening for your manifestation? Okay, I also did a podcast episode on this of what to do when it feels like nothing is happening for your manifestation. It's a few episodes back, but basically, what I do is I look at what's in my control with this manifestation and what's not in control, right? So you can actually like take out a piece of paper, do a little divide right in the middle, and say, within this manifestation, what is not in my control and what is in my control. And the work that I do is I really work on accepting that which is not in my control and giving it to God, giving it to the universe, and trusting that the universe has got my back, right? So I do that. And then I look at that list of what is in my control and I work towards that. I take action towards that is in my control. And I tend to be a more active manifester. So I like to keep moving towards it, right? I don't tend to be someone who sits around and waits. Even if it does feel like it's taking a long time, I'm like, let me try this out. Let me test this. Let's go for it this way. Let's try it from this angle. And sometimes it still takes time, right? But at least I know that I'm trying and I'm doing my best and I'm giving it all that I've got, right? I'm really committed to it. And I'm just trusting that the universe is working out what is not in my control. So that's what I do whenever I'm in that liminal space. I don't do much waiting. And that's just who I am. I like to move, not hustle, but I like to just consistently be working towards things, you know? And I think you need to be consistently working towards things of what is in your control and then accept what is not. Okay, the next question is there a time to change what your manifestation is? Yes, there is definitely a time, I believe, to change what your manifestation or your vision is. And that is when you are no longer lit up by the vision, when it no longer feels aligned, when it's no longer what you want anymore. Absolutely change course. Let yourself change. For sure, because it's going to be real hard to manifest something that you're not lit up by, that you don't even want. That is when I would change it. It's just when you no longer really care about it, or it just doesn't feel in alignment, or something else different does feel in alignment. Make the pivot, make the shift 100%. We do not have to commit to something till the end if it's not something we actually want. So that's when I would pivot. Okay. What's the best encouragement you would give to anyone who wants to manifest a better future for themselves? Love it. Love it. So, yeah, I guess the best encouragement I would give is that you just have to go for it. You have to decide that you can do it, that you can do it. Don't tell yourself you can't, right? And then move towards it one step at a time, because the life that you want and the future that you want is not going to just come to you. It's something that you're going to co-create with the universe. You get to be the creator of it. So I would say actively work towards it. Go for it. And the only thing that's going to stop you is if you tell yourself you can't, and it's a total lie. You absolutely can. So I would work on cultivating that belief. I can. I can do it. I can do it. Even if it feels hard, even if you're in the middle of it, even if there's frustration and there's disappointment, if it's something your heart and soul feels called to do, you can do it. You just have to keep reminding yourself, I can, I will. So I would have those words as mantras and practice them. And really, all you have to do is believe that it's possible for someone like you. That's not always easy to believe, but it's a choice. You get to decide that you can, and it's a total decision. So that's the encouragement that I would give to someone is just decide to believe that you can. No one's going to do that for you. All right? Okay. Oh, I love this question. What kinds of energy do we possess that contribute to manifesting? So good. Okay. The energy that we possess that contributes to manifesting, I'm going to give you a couple of different energies that I have found extremely helpful and useful when it comes to manifesting. The first one, and I'm going to say this, it may not resonate with everyone who's listening because I know we all have different definitions of God and different ways that we see God. But honestly, for me, I find that the energy of God, of source, it's also the energy of love. I don't think of them as different, right? The energy of love or God or source is the most powerful and potent energy that we can tap into when we are manifesting. So, the way that I see it is God is like the sun, right? Or the universe, creator, source, love itself. It's like the sun. And us as humans, what are we? We are like the rays of the sun. We are emanations of the sun. We are a part of the sun. We are what is shining from the sun. That's how I see it, right? As humans, that's who we are. That's what created us. Source created us, and we are a part of that. We're like a ray of that. And we have access to that power. We have access to the power of God, source, love that we get to remember and tap. Most people who have had awakenings or who meditate consistently and come back to themselves or are deeply connected to the true source of God feel this at some point in their life. Now, they don't always remember it because we have egos that forget and think that we're all alone and in this by ourselves and that we have to control everything and force it. And we all have one of those beautiful things called an ego. But if we can continuously practice remembering, whether that's through meditation or prayer or mantra, that we have that power within us. We are made by that thing. We are an emanation of that thing. There's nothing we can't do. There's nothing we can't create. That's why I love calling it co-creation. I'm co-creating with source. And whenever I tap into that remembering and that knowing, that's when I remember my power. And that's where I find the things in my life flow with so much more ease that I manifest things that I wasn't even intentionally manifesting. And then I do also manifest things that I am intentionally manifesting. And I just find so much more grace in the process. So that's the energy that I would answer that question from. But I also want to share a couple of other energies that I think are in alignment with source that are also so helpful to continuously tap into. I would say the energies of positivity, kindness, and love are going to help you manifest so much easier. Think about it, right? If you're at a job and somebody is super positive, they show up with a positive mindset, they're positive about the work, they're happy to be there, they've cultivated a positive mindset. Not saying they don't have human emotions, let's be real. I'm not saying positive 100% of the time. I'm just saying overall, they have an overall sense of positivity. This is something that can be definitely cultivated. There's just a much higher chance that that person is going to get a raise, that that person is going to get a promotion, that that person is going to have amazing sales, right? Because that energy is just so magnetic. Think about any time whenever you go to a coffee shop and you meet someone who's positive, right? The person working there is positive. The chances of them getting a higher tip is definitely increased, hands down, right? So I do think positivity makes a huge difference and kindness as well. This is something that, me and my husband really practice a lot is just being kind to everyone. And I will tell you what, we get so much free stuff. And it's not that we're trying to get free stuff. It's just, it happens, right? We're kind to the person at the ticket counter and we get a free upgrade, or we're kind to the person working at Earth Cafe and they give us a free dessert. Not that we're even asking for it. We're just practice kindness because kindness feels good. But we always say, one of the best ways to manifest is just be freaking nice to people. Just be kind, even if they're not kind. That's a really fun practice, is even if they're not kind, like bless them and show them so much love and kindness, and they will be taken back. So that's an energy that I do find helps the manifestation process. And of course, love, which is also similar to the energy of source, right? It's like, I just don't think too much can go wrong when you are in the energy of love. Not that human experiences can't happen, but when you're in the energy of love, it brings so much into alignment. So, those are the top energies I would say are most helpful for manifesting. And I just want to say, I'm a human being too. So, I'm not in those energies 100% of the time. I get triggered too. I get irritable too, right? I mean, and I get frustrated and I get all the things, and those are not wrong either. But I will say that I do try to make it a practice to come back to these more and more and build the muscle of coming back to source energy and bringing myself back and going in nature so that I can connect with that feeling. I feel like that's one of my favorite ways to connect with source, God energy, love. It's just going into nature, doing the things that I love, having enough stillness in my life to where I can settle my system and get connected in there. And then also just practicing kindness, love, positivity, not only towards others, but towards myself. This is all work that I've done with coaches, my own life coaches that I have hired, is how can I love more? How can I love myself more? How can I be more compassionate with myself? Because whenever I do it to me, it reflects out and I do it to others. All right. So, next question is, what are your plans for 2025? Are you keeping things the same in your business, or are you thinking about switching things? Oh my gosh, I can't believe 2025 is like around the corner. It's so fun. And I've already been totally thinking about it and setting some intentions for what I am cultivating and creating in the next year, because I do plan. I mean, I do tend to plan ahead and think ahead. I don't create like super specific plans, but I kind of know the energy of what's the next year going to be. And the word that keeps coming to me is simplifying for next year, right? This year was really all about building and creating a solid team and having super solid support in my business and building a really solid foundation in terms of the back end, in terms of looking at data and numbers and all this organization that I wasn't naturally good at. So I hired some amazing team members to help me out with that. And it's been incredible. And now I can say my business is really in a place to grow and scale. And what I am most excited about is just expanding and growing the money manifestation movement and community. That program is so close to my heart. It is something that feels like it has a life of its own, in the way that people just get so much transformation through it. And there is just so much that shifts within that year that people go through that program, that ends up having a ripple effect on the rest of their life. And I'm like, I would love to just manifest even more aligned clients into that program in the next year. So that's definitely going to be my focus. And I'm going to be simplifying what I'm selling, what I'm launching, and really focus in on that. So that's the intention for 2025 business wise. And then outside of business wise, Josh and I are manifesting a move. So we are manifesting that we sell our home in LA for a very wonderful price over asking, and that we have a smooth and graceful move. The intention is to move to Hawaii, and that's the vision. And I always say this, or something even better for the highest good of all concerned. What we both feel called to be in and live in is a place that just feels really peaceful, serene, lots of nature surrounding us, in a place where there's lots of activities and the hobbies that I love, which obviously Hawaii is definitely in alignment with that. I see myself joining one of the outrigger canoe clubs and going out on the ocean and canoeing several times a week. I just want my workouts to be like out in nature, doing lots of hikes and having a more calm and serene environment. I am super excited for the day that I live in a place full time where I just go to park my car at a store and it's not like a whole ordeal just to park, which I live in LA right now and I've lived here for 14 years. So I'm just ready for change. I'm ready for evolution. So we're very excited to sell our house and to buy a new home. The word around that is simplicity too, because we want a home that just feels simple. It feels easy to take care of. There's not a lot of extras. When we manifested this house in LA, it was such a dream, but it has so much to it. We have the pool, the hot tub, a big yard with like a rose garden, lots of stuff to take care of. It's a big house. And it was the dream, it was the manifestation. And we have loved living in this home for the past 8.5 years. It has served us so much. So much has happened. I've built my whole business in this home. Josh completely transitioned his careers in this home, but we're really feeling called for more simplicity, like a smaller home with less to take care of outside, absolutely manifesting no pool because we thought we for sure would love having a pool. And then sometimes when you get your manifestations, you realize, maybe it's not what I want. So that's the beauty of evolving and shifting and changing. So yeah, we just want a simple house in Hawaii or in, a beautiful area that feels abundant and feels just really great to be in, that serves the purpose that we're both in the world to do, right? We keep thinking we want the house that's aligned with our mission. And part of that is not taking care of a ton of things outside of the house, like pool leaks and hot tub issues and yard things that keep happening. And, it's just when you have, a big property, there's more to take care of. And for some people, they absolutely love that stuff and love taking care of that. Me and Josh, on the other hand, not so much. We are like, we like to work. We like to go out on weekends. We love to explore, hike, eat out, all those things. But taking care of like pretty big, expansive home is not really our thing. So we're excited to simplify. Sometimes less is more, right? And sometimes you learn that. And it's funny because this is really the first year that we've been thinking that. We've loved where we've lived and been so grateful for it, but we feel called for that less is more and simplicity. So we're excited for that. That's what's happening in 2025. So you'll have to come along the journey with me and watch it unfold. So that's what I've got. So I hope these were helpful. I really, really loved your questions, and I'll have to do another one of these episodes soon. So if you have questions you want answered on the podcast, what I would recommend doing is making sure that you are on my email list, because that is where I send the form out where you can ask these questions. So be sure to go to the show notes and I will point you in the direction of where you can sign up to get on my email list. All right, my friend, I will talk to you next week.